Did you know Elvis shot a television set right inside Graceland because Robert Goulet was singing on it? Or that a real waterfall used to cascade down a wall in one of his living rooms? And get this, the super famous music gates weren't even his first choice for an entrance. Prepare to have your mind blown by the secrets hiding inside the king's castle. Number 10. Graceland wasn't always Elvis's kingdom. Okay, picture this. Memphis, Tennessee, way back before rock and roll completely took over the world. There's this big piece of land, about 500 acres actually, that was owned by a family named the S.E. Toof family. They were printers, big deals in the local business scene. They used this land as a farm for generations. Fast forward a bit, and a lady named Ruth Brown Moore, who happened to be Stephen Toof's niece, inherited a chunk of that farmland in the 1930s. Now Ruth and her husband, Dr. Thomas Moore, decided they wanted to build a fancy house right there on that inherited land. They didn't just slap something together. They went for a classic style, something called Colonial Revival. Think columns, symmetrical design, very grand and elegant. The kind of house that says, "We've arrived." They finished building this impressive mansion in 1939. And what did they name this beautiful new home? They named it Graceland. But wait, it wasn't named after Elvis's mom, Gladys, or anything rock and roll related. Nope. It was named in honor of Ruth's aunt, Grace Toof, who originally owned the farmland. So the name Graceland, the iconic name we all know, existed nearly 2 decades before Elvis Presley ever set foot on the property as its owner. Imagine the Moores living there, maybe having quiet dinner parties, completely unaware that their elegant home would one day become a global symbol of music, fame, and the ultimate rock star lifestyle visited by hundreds of thousands of people every single year. It wasn't a custom-built palace for the king. It was a pre-existing southern mansion that just happened to capture his eye when he was looking for a place that offered more privacy than his previous home on Audubon Drive. He needed space, security, and maybe just a little bit of that southern grandeur that the Moore family had already built right into the bricks and mortar years before. The house already had its name, its style, and its place in the Memphis landscape long before Elvis made it legendary. It was waiting for its king, even if it didn't know it yet. Number 9. A promise kept. The house for Mama. Elvis adored his mother, Gladys Presley. Their bond was incredibly tight. Famously so. Growing up, the Presley family didn't have much money. They moved around a lot, sometimes living in very basic conditions, like the 2-room shotgun shack where Elvis was born in Tupelo, Mississippi. Elvis never forgot those leaner years, and he especially never forgot the sacrifices his mother made. He reportedly made a promise to her, maybe when he was just a kid dreaming big dreams, or perhaps later as his star began its meteoric rise. The promise was simple but powerful. One day, he would buy her the finest house in town, or maybe even the whole world. He wanted to give her the security and comfort they hadn't always known. So, when Elvis's career exploded in the mid-1950s, money started pouring in. He was suddenly one of the most famous people on the planet, with hit records, movie deals, and sellout concerts. His first Memphis home on Audubon Drive quickly became unsuitable. Fans were constantly gathered outside, peering in windows, trampling the lawn. It just wasn't private enough for Elvis or his parents, Vernon and Gladys. He needed a fortress, a sanctuary. That's when he found Graceland. In March 1957, Elvis, just 22 years old but already a millionaire superstar, put down the money for the Graceland property, the price tag, a cool $102,500. That sounds like a bargain today, but back then it was a significant sum, especially for such a young man. He didn't just buy it for himself, he bought it for his family, specifically with his beloved mother, Gladys, in mind. He was fulfilling that heartfelt promise he'd made. Graceland, was it? The finest house he could find for her, a grand southern mansion set back from the road, surrounded by trees, offering the space and seclusion they desperately needed. Gladys, Vernon, and Elvis's grandmother, Minnie Mae Presley, all moved into Graceland with him. For Gladys, it must have seemed like a dream come true after years of hardship. Sadly, her time enjoying the mansion was tragically short. Gladys passed away just over a year later, in August 1958, at the young age of 46. Although her time there was brief, Elvis had kept his word. He had given his mama the grandest house, a physical symbol of his love and success, just as he had promised all those years ago. Graceland became not just his home, but a testament to that deep mother-son bond. Number 8. Welcome to the Jungle Room. Seriously, a waterfall? All right, buckle up, because we're heading into one of the wildest rooms, not just in Graceland, but maybe on the planet, the Jungle Room. Officially known as the Den, this room got its famous nickname for a reason. Sometime in the mid-1960s, Elvis decided this room needed a makeover, and boy, did it get one. Forget subtle elegance. Think pure, unadulterated, over-the-top tiki Polynesian jungle fabulousness. Apparently, Elvis saw a similar setup in a place he liked and basically said, "I want that, but M-O-R-E-M." The room became an explosion of green shag carpet, covering not just the floor, but climbing right up onto the ceiling too. Imagine walking into a room where you're literally surrounded by green fuzz. But that wasn't enough. He brought in heavy, dark, carved wooden furniture that looked like it was plucked straight from a jungle chieftain's hut. Think oversized chairs with animal-inspired details, maybe faux fur throws and lots of dark wood. Then came the plants, tons of them, real and artificial, crowding every corner, adding to the dense tropical vibe. And the piece de resistance. A built-in fieldstone waterfall cascading down one wall. Yes, an actual functioning indoor waterfall right there in his den. Water flowed down the natural rock wall, collecting in a pool at the bottom, adding the soothing sound of running water to the already unique atmosphere. It was kitschy, it was extravagant, it was completely unique, and it was totally Elvis. He loved this room. It was a place to relax with his friends, the Memphis Mafia, kick back and escape. It wasn't just for show, though. This incredibly unique room also served a surprising purpose later on. In 1976, needing to record new material but perhaps not wanting to travel to a formal studio, RCA brought mobile recording equipment right to Graceland. And where did they set up shop? You guessed it, the Jungle Room. The acoustics might have been unconventional, to say the least, with all that shag carpet and the waterfall structure, but they made it work. Elvis laid down vocals for tracks that would end up on the albums from Elvis Presley Boulevard, Memphis, Tennessee, and Moody Blue, his final studio album released during his lifetime. Songs like Moody Blue and Way Down were actually recorded right there amidst the green shag and the stone waterfall. It's an amazing image. The king of rock and roll, singing his heart out in his personal, homemade jungle. The Jungle Room remains one of the most talked about and beloved spots in Graceland. A perfect snapshot of Elvis's playful and extravagant taste. Number 7. Making music where he lived, Graceland recording sessions. Think about recording studios. Usually soundproofed rooms, complex mixing boards, producers behind glass. Now erase that image and replace it with Elvis Presley, in his pajamas maybe, singing into a microphone, set up right next to his indoor waterfall and green shag carpet ceiling. Because that actually happened. While Graceland was primarily Elvis's home, a sanctuary away from the screaming crowds and demanding schedules, it also doubled as a recording studio on a couple of notable occasions. The most famous instances were the sessions held in the legendary Jungle Room in February and October of 1976. RCA, his record label, faced a situation. Elvis wasn't keen on going to their Nashville or Hollywood studios at the time, but they needed new material. So, they decided if the king wouldn't come to the studio would come to the king. They trucked in mobile recording equipment, microphones, cables, tape machines, the whole 9 yards, and set it all up inside Graceland, specifically choosing the Den, aka the Jungle Room. Imagine the engineers trying to get optimal sound quality in a room dominated by shag carpet, heavy furniture, and that stone waterfall wall. It must have been a unique challenge. Despite the unconventional setting, Elvis, relaxed and comfortable in his own home environment, got down to business. During these sessions, he recorded a significant batch of songs. The February sessions produced tracks like Moody Blue, which became a huge hit, and the title track of his last studio album released while he was alive, and The Bluesy Hurt. Later, in October, he recorded more songs in the Jungle Room, including the rocker Way Down, which ironically became a massive posthumous hit shortly after his death in August 1977, and Pledging My Love. These recordings weren't just demos, they were master takes used for major album releases. The albums from Elvis Presley Boulevard, Memphis, Tennessee, and Moody Blue heavily feature these home-recorded tracks. It speaks volumes about Elvis's status and influence that his record label would literally bring the entire recording process to his living room, adapting to his wishes and his environment. It also gives those songs a unique pulchros, forever linking them to the quirky personal space of the Jungle Room. It wasn't the first time music was made there. Elvis often jammed with friends or played piano in the house, but these sessions were professional recordings that captured the king's voice in the heart of his castle. Number 6. Behind closed doors. Why upstairs stays private. Every year, hundreds of thousands of fans flock to Graceland, eager to walk in the footsteps of the king. They tour the living room, the kitchen, the famous Jungle Room, the pool room, his father's office, the trophy building, and the meditation garden, where Elvis rests. But there's one significant part of the mansion that remains strictly off limits to the public tour: the entire upstairs area. This isn't just a random decision, It's a deeply personal one, rooted in respect for Elvis and his memory. The upstairs portion of Graceland was Elvis's private sanctuary. It contained his bedroom, his dressing area, his office, and, importantly, the bedroom of his daughter, Lisa Marie. This was his personal space, the place he retreated to escape the pressures of fame, to relax, to sleep, to be himself away from the spotlight. When Graceland opened to the public in 1982, 5 years after Elvis's death, the decision was made by his ex-wife, Priscilla Presley, and the estate managers to keep the upstairs private. The primary reason given has always been one of respect. Elvis passed away in the bathroom adjoining his bedroom suite on August 16, 1977. Opening this intensely personal space, the very area where he spent his final moments, was deemed inappropriate and disrespectful to his memory and to his family. It was felt that this part of the home should remain exactly as he left it, untouched by the millions of eyes that would pass through if it were open. Priscilla Presley has often spoken about wanting to maintain that boundary, preserving the upstairs as his final private refuge. It's a way of honoring him, keeping a part of his home solely for his memory, separate from the public persona and the tourist attraction. While Graceland is a museum, it was also his home, and the upstairs represents the most intimate part of that home. Only family members and select staff from the Graceland archives are typically allowed access. Lisa Marie Presley, until her passing, considered Graceland, particularly the upstairs, her private space when she visited. It's said that the area is maintained exactly as Elvis left it, creating a sort of time capsule of his life at the very end. This decision adds an air of mystery to Graceland, but more importantly, it serves as a poignant reminder that behind the legend was a real person who valued his privacy, and whose family continues to protect that final private space. Number 5. Those famous gates weren't the first choice. When you think of Graceland, one of the first images that probably pops into your head is those incredible music gates. Wrought iron masterpieces featuring musical notes, clefs, and 2 stylized figures of Elvis himself holding a guitar. They are arguably the most iconic gates in music history. They scream, "Elvis lives here." But here's a fun fact. They weren't part of the original plan when Elvis bought the property in 1957. When Elvis purchased Graceland, the entrance was much simpler, probably just a standard gate suitable for a nice southern home, but certainly not fit for the king of rock and roll. Elvis, however, wanted something grander, something that reflected his personality and his profession. The story goes that initially, Elvis had commissioned some rather impressive, but perhaps more conventional large iron gates. These gates were reportedly quite ornate, but didn't have the specific musical theme we see today. However, shortly after buying Graceland, Elvis saw a set of gates at a public building or maybe another estate. The exact inspiration point is sometimes debated, that featured a musical motif. He loved the idea instantly. He wanted gates that screamed music. So the original gate order was apparently scrapped or modified. Elvis commissioned Abe Saucer, owner of Memphis's Tennessee Fabricating Company, to design and build the custom gates we see today. The design, featuring the clef symbols, eighth notes, and the guitar-playing Elvis figures, was exactly what the king wanted. They were installed relatively quickly after he moved in, sometime later in 1957. These gates immediately became a landmark. They weren't just functional, they were a statement. they announced to the world that this wasn't just any mansion. It was the home of a music legend. Fans started flocking to the gates almost immediately, leaving messages, taking photos, and just soaking in the proximity to their idol. The gates quickly became covered in graffiti, messages of love song lyrics, names and dates, written by fans from all over the globe. Graceland staff used to regularly clean or repaint the stone wall next to the gates, but the messages would reappear almost instantly. Eventually, they embraced it as part of the Graceland experience, a testament to the enduring love fans have for Elvis. So, next time you see a picture of those famous music gates, remember they were a second thought, a flash of inspiration that turned into one of the most recognizable and beloved symbols associated with Elvis Presley. Number 4. Second only to the White House. Graceland's visitor fees are HUG. J? Okay, let's talk numbers, because this is pretty mind-blowing. Graceland, the former private home of Elvis Presley in Memphis, Tennessee, holds a very special title. It's widely cited as the second most visited private residence in the entire United States. Think about all the famous houses, historic mansions, and celebrity homes across the country. Which one holds the number one spot? The White House in Washington, D.C. So, yeah, Elvis's house comes in right behind the official residence and workplace of the President of the United States in terms of annual visitors. That's absolutely massive. After Elvis's death in 1977, the cost of maintaining Graceland became astronomical. Running the large estate, paying taxes, and covering security costs threatened to bankrupt the Presley estate. Priscilla Presley, as executor, was advised by financial experts that selling Graceland might be the only option. However, Priscilla had the vision to see Graceland's potential not just as a former home, but as a tribute to Elvis and a destination for his millions of fans worldwide. Inspired by tours of other famous homes and museums, she spearheaded the effort to open Graceland to the public. It was a gamble, but it paid off spectacularly. Graceland officially opened its doors for tours on June 7, 1982. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Fans who had only ever glimpsed the mansion from behind the music gates could now walk through the very rooms where the king lived, loved, and relaxed. Since then, a steady stream of visitors, often exceeding 600,000 people per year, makes the pilgrimage to Memphis. Over the decades, Graceland has welcomed well over 20 million visitors from literally every corner of the globe. These visitors come to experience the magic, to pay respects, and to get a glimpse into the life of one of the most influential cultural icons of the 20th century. The complex has expanded significantly over the years, now including Elvis Presley's Memphis Entertainment Complex across the street, featuring museums, beautifying his cars, career, and costumes, plus restaurants and shops. But the mansion itself remains the heart of the experience. Its status as the second most visited home in America, trailing only the home of the sitting president, is a powerful testament to Elvis's enduring legacy and the deep connection fans still feel to him and his iconic home decades after his passing. Number 3. Poolside fun and... Is that a diving board? When Elvis bought Graceland in 1957, it was already a pretty impressive property. It had the grand house, the rolling lawns, the trees offering privacy. But surprisingly, it was missing one key element for a southern mansion destined to belong to a superstar: a swimming pool. The original owners, the Moore family, hadn't included one when they built the house back in 1939. Elvis, loving the outdoors and wanting a place to cool off during those hot Memphis summers and entertain his friends, decided a pool was an absolute necessity. So one of the very first major additions Elvis made to the Graceland property after purchasing it was the installation of a large, kidney-shaped swimming pool. Construction began fairly quickly after he moved in. Pictures from that era show the excavation and building process underway in the backyard area. It wasn't just a simple pool. It was designed to be a centerpiece for outdoor fun and relaxation. It became a hub of activity at Graceland, especially during the warmer months. Numerous photos capture Elvis lounging by the pool, swimming, or goofing around with his friends and family. Imagine the pool parties that must have happened there. It was part of the Graceland lifestyle, a place to unwind away from the stage and the recording studio. Adjacent to the pool, there's a patio area, perfect for sunbathing and socializing. Interestingly, some older photos seem to show a diving board installed at the deep end of the pool. While diving boards were common features back then, it adds another layer to the image of Elvis and his pals enjoying the pool area. Whether it remained throughout his time there or was removed later isn't always clear, but its presence in early photos highlights that this was designed as a classic fun-in-the-sun swimming pool. The pool area, nestled behind the main house and near the meditation garden, remains a key stop on the Graceland tour. While visitors can't take a dip themselves, seeing the iconic kidney shape and imagining the king relaxing there offers another intimate glimpse into his life beyond the music. It's a reminder that even global superstars enjoy simple pleasures like a backyard swim. And Elvis made sure his castle had the perfect spot for it. Number 2. More than just a house. Graceland's animal residence. Elvis wasn't just the king of rock and roll. He was also the king of Graceland's rather unusual menagerie. His love for animals went way beyond typical pets, like dogs and cats, although he certainly had those too. Over the years, Graceland became home to a surprising variety of creatures, adding another layer of unique personality to the already famous estate. Perhaps the most well-known animal residents were the horses. Elvis loved horseback riding, and the spacious grounds of Graceland provided the perfect place for stables and pastures. He owned several horses throughout his time there, often seen riding around the property. It was a way for him to connect with nature and enjoy some downtime. The stables are still part of the Graceland property today. But it didn't stop with horses. Elvis also had a number of dogs, including a famous chow chow named Get-Low. There are pictures of Elvis cuddling with various canine companions over the years. Then things got a bit more exotic. For a time, Graceland was home to donkeys. Apparently, they were kept in the pasture areas. There are also stories and reports of peacocks strutting around the grounds, adding a touch of regal beauty and maybe some loud calls to the landscape. But maybe the most surprising animal resident, a chimpanzee named Scatter. Scatter wasn't just any chimp. He was apparently quite mischievous and became a notorious member of Elvis's entourage for a period in the early 1960s. Originally belonging to a Memphis entertainer, Scatter was known for his wild antics, which Elvis reportedly found hilarious. Stories abound of Scatter wearing clothes, driving cars, briefly and badly one assumes, and generally causing chaos, sometimes even accompanying Elvis to Hollywood. While Scatter's time with Elvis might have been relatively short-lived due to his increasingly unmanageable behavior, the fact that a chimp was part of the Graceland scene, even temporarily, is pretty wild. Elvis also reportedly kept other animals, like turkeys and guinea fowl, on the property at various times. Graceland wasn't just a mansion. It was a functioning estate with space for Elvis's varied interests, including his love for animals, both common and uncommon. These animal residents, from the graceful horses to the infamous chimp, add colorful anecdotes to the rich history of the king's castle. Number 1. A place of peace. The Meditation Garden. While much of Graceland buzzes with the energy of Elvis's life and career, the music, the jumpsuits, the jungle room, there's one spot on the grounds that holds a quiet, profound significance: the Meditation Garden. Located adjacent to the swimming pool area, this tranquil space wasn't originally designed as a burial site, but rather as a place for quiet reflection, just as its name suggests. Elvis reportedly enjoyed spending time here, finding peace and solitude away from the demands of his extraordinary life. He commissioned the garden's construction in the mid-1960s. It features a circular design with a fountain, brick walls, stained glass windows, classical style, statues, and carefully tended flowers and plants, creating a serene atmosphere. It was intended as a private retreat for contemplation. However, the garden took on a much deeper meaning after Elvis's death. Initially, Elvis was buried next to his mother, Gladys, in Memphis's Forest Hill Cemetery. But security concerns quickly became overwhelming. The fear of vandalism or theft at the public cemetery was immense, given Elvis's global fame and the intense emotion surrounding his passing. There was also the issue of the massive crowds of mourners flocking to the cemetery, causing significant disruption. To ensure the security and sanctity of Elvis's final resting place and that of his mother, a decision was made by the family and estate. In October 1977, just 2 months after his death, Elvis's body and Gladys's body removed from Forest Hill Cemetery and reinterred in the Meditation Garden at Graceland. This move ensured their gravesites would be protected within the secure grounds of the family home, and allowed fans to pay respects in a controlled and respectful environment once Graceland opened for tours. Over the years, other family members have been laid to rest there as well. Elvis's father, Vernon Presley, who passed away in 1979, is buried next to him. His grandmother, Minnie Mae Presley, who outlived Elvis and Vernon, passing in 1980, rests there too. Most recently, Elvis's only child, Lisa Marie Presley, who passed away in January 2023, was also buried in the Meditation Garden, near her father and her son, Benjamin Kia, whose gravesite is also located there. The Meditation Garden has thus transformed from a place of quiet, personal reflection for Elvis into the final resting place for the king and his beloved family members. It's the final stop on the Graceland tour, a poignant and beautiful space where visitors can pause, reflect, and pay their respects, surrounded by flowers, the gentle sound of the fountain, and the eternal flame that burns in Elvis's memory.